You ready? We're getting live on Facebook. Okay, we're live on YouTube. Okay, and we're live on Facebook. You're gonna say hello for a second? Tell to go. Okay, Mike, we're ready to roll.
Hello, and here we are, ready to start our conversation.
Hi, everybody. We're gonna have a fun conversation. Waiting for the signal. Here's the countdown. Honey, you watch that countdown? That's for 24 minutes. At 24, you gotta cut. Go ahead. Watching the signal?
It only shows 20. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Schmooze with the Rabbi and the Rebbetzin here today, having a little bit of a conversation. We were laughing with each other how our house is probably one of the noisiest houses now in the quarantine. People are, complaining of the loneliness, the boredom, the quiet.
I always tell people, you should come to my house for a little bit.
And our house is, it hardly feels like quarantine. We have quite a few members in our household. Thankfully, we have 8 children. And
under the age of 12.
And a very active school system going on, lots of arts and crafts, lots of projects, all sorts of things. But although it's kind of noisy in our house and doesn't really feel like quarantine, we know that a lot of you are sitting at home by yourselves or with a spouse, and not too many people. And it's a really interesting time where we start to really think about our relationships, because relationships are taking on an entirely new structure now. We're used to going out with friends, doing things together, getting together for all sorts of activities, whether it's drinks or if it's to shul or sports or whatever it is. That's how we're used to getting our social interaction. That's how we build our friendships. That's how we build our relationships. And now it's really kind of different. It's really kind of different.
I think kind of that in the good days before this pandemic, our relationships were somewhat distracted by all the activities that we were doing while spending time with each other. I mean, think of the couple that goes out for a movie. Are they really spending 3 hours together, or are they just spending 3 hours sitting next to each other in a dark room? Maybe 20 minutes that they're actually spending together with each other, right? So it's today where you don't have all these distractions. There's no bowl games, there's no concerts, there's no restaurants, there's no theaters. Now, we're only left with just the relationship. So I find that a lot of lonely people, I'm counseling a lot of lonely people that are really struggling through this quarantine, that are looking at their relationships in a way that there's very little distraction. There's just the relationship.
Look, I think at home there can also be distraction. I think that a cell phone can be very distracting. So even if you're at home and you have nowhere to go and you're not at the movies and you're not, distracted, you are distracted with the cell phone. There's the TV that can be very distracting. Your computer can be very distracting.
No, but I mean when you're spending time together, when you're supposed to be socializing, how much time of the socializing were we actually doing spending time together with our friends? And how much of that time was being distracted and not true socializing? Now, during this quarantine, when you pick up the phone, you call someone, it's just about the connection.
Right.
There's nothing else going on. There's no concerts to distract us. There's no movie. There's no net. There's nothing. There's just a connection, and we're left wondering about the nature of our relationship. And as you and I have been talking about, there's people that are cleaning out house. This is a very interesting phenomenon going on. I'm hearing about people that are clearing out their, doing spring cleaning of their homes, and there's people that are doing spring cleaning of their friends lists.
Yeah, I think people are thinking about who is reaching out to them and who is calling them. And, if I wasn't reached out to, then I guess they don't care about me so much. Or
have you heard about this one that they say, if I haven't heard from you in a year, then I'm probably shouldn't be having you on my friends list. Have you heard about
Well, what I see all the time on Facebook, I see people saying, "Oh, I'm cleaning out my friends list. So comment here if you would like to remain on my friends list. Otherwise, I'm clearing it out." And it really makes you wonder. And I think we just went, oops.
Yeah, keep going right now.
And it really makes you wonder, what is a friend? And what is the meaning of a friend? And it's actually interesting how Facebook uses this concept of friend. Like, will you friend me? I accepted your friend request. It's an interesting concept. And you really need to stop and think, what does that mean? What does that mean to be a friend? And how do we view our friendships? When we accept somebody as a friend, is it because we are expecting something of them? Is it because we are expecting something in return? Is it because we're hoping to gain something out of that friendship? And how often do we think that about people that are being friends with us?
Hannah, I think you said something deeply insulting to Facebook, because Facebook just kicked us off our Facebook Live.
You're right.
Our Facebook Live feed. I think Big Brother is listening to us from Cupertino or wherever they are in California. And as we're talking about people dropping their Facebook friends, our Facebook Live feed was just dropped off of this Schmooze radio show. True. So I hope that we haven't lost our status in Facebook.
Well, maybe because they didn't listen to the end. they were a little too quick to act. And maybe that's how some of us behave with our friends. Maybe we're a little too quick to act.
See, it's a sign. YouTube Live is still carrying us, so Google still believes in us.
And maybe we are too quick to get rid of friends that maybe we just didn't take the time to get to know a little bit better, or to appreciate, or to value. And I think that we really ought to reevaluate what friendship means.
So what is the grounds for rejecting or terminating a friendship?
Look, I think if somebody is abusive in any form, that kind of person should not be in your life. I don't think that there is any purpose in carrying on a relationship with somebody that is abusive. But I think that's really for a different conversation. I think what we want to talk about today is more...
We're talking about relatively healthy relationships, where nobody's getting hurt in any physical or verbal or emotional or sexual manner, where there is, a safe relationship. But the question is, in a safe relationship, is there any time that you should terminate a friendship?
So I think it needs to be evaluated when you think about, first of all, who the relationship is with. Is it a spouse? Is it a child? And what is the reason that we are feeling the need to terminate that relationship? Is it because we're just not feeling full, we're not getting anything out of it? Or is there an actual valid reason? So in general, I always feel that if you fell in love with someone in the first place, you can't truly fall out of love with them. You can always rekindle that.
That's quite a statement you got there.
Yeah, that's a bit daring for me to say
you think that people can't fall out of love.
Look, I think that they can forget the reasons, and they can come to a stale place where it's just they're not filling themselves up anymore. But what I feel is that if you fell in love with somebody, then it can always be fixed. So you can always find that flame again. Unless, of course, as I said, there is abuse, which is a completely different conversation. So
you're saying that if you can reach that magical place called love, that's a place that you can never really leave. Once
Absolutely.
You're there,
and again, yes. And we're talking about normal, healthy, stable people. Okay. Not somebody that has...
Oh, we got that. Okay,
issues.
I got that.
But yes, if we're talking about normal, stable, good people, then absolutely, if you're able to fall in love with them to begin with, then there's always a way back.
I got to tell you, Hannah, I happen to agree with you, because, we do a lot of counseling, marriage counseling, to people 2 and 3 times our age that are going through marriages in crisis of all different kinds. And I'm horrified to see how many couples are being counseled by their therapists to go and separate.
Yeah.
And what we do is
It's
we
horrifying.
bring in Torah values. I mean, specifically, we bring in the Tanya. Tanya, which is the founding text of Chabad philosophy. And I find such an extraordinary success rate in the counseling that we bring to couples, to convince them to stay together, to give them the tools to overcome those problems. And like you just said, to be able to find that magical place of love, to rediscover that magical place of love by removing the schmutz, the dirt.
You know, I wouldn't even use the word convince. We don't convince them. We just kind of, like you said, give them the tools that says, you know, add a little bit of this or add a little bit of that. And on their own, they don't need any convincing in the end, because on their own, that fire comes back and they're there. They got there without.
But I think that if we could really identify what that love is, it was such a beautiful statement. You said that once you fall in love with someone, you don't believe that you can fall out of love. I mean, that is so romantic.
Look,
wow, it's actually profound.
I think
love
that you can lose your way. I think that you can fall off the wagon, kind of forget why you were there in the first place. But if you truly love that person from the start, then absolutely. Then there's always a way back. And I think that really the biggest lesson is from a statement that says in the Talmud that even if you don't feel something strongly, if you do it even without meaning it, you will come to do it when you mean it. Meaning that if you're not feeling that excitement in your marriage or with your child or with whoever it is, whatever relationship you're in, if you're feeling like kind of lost your way, do something special for them. Do something nice, even if you don't feel like it, even if you don't feel comfortable because they're such a nasty, such a bad, such a, difficult person. Do something nice.
So that's what you're saying.
Because by doing that, you will awaken that little spark. And it might take some time. It might take a long time. But you have no idea what that one little act can create. And from doing it without feeling it or from wanting it, you will end up doing it with a passion, with wanting to do it.
So you're saying, Hannah, that you should do the right thing
for the wrong reason.
For the wrong reason. And if you do the right thing for the wrong reason, then ultimately you'll come to do the right thing for the right reason.
Absolutely. And I feel like as women especially, we're very quick to dismiss things that that our spouse does for us, or that anybody does, as like, you didn't mean it anyway, or I think that we're very, very quick to just kind of.
Well, that's very validating.
To not really appreciate and really devalue someone's actions by not meaning it, and I think that it's time that we realize that. So what? What do you care? So maybe they didn't mean it, absolutely. But would you prefer that they didn't do it altogether? Would you prefer that they gave you a nasty comment instead of a compliment? Would you prefer that they didn't?
A well-intentioned insult, or a poorly intentioned compliment, right? Which is better?
Yeah. So that's the question, and I think in general, we're very, very quick to dismiss when people do nice things for us. And I don't know how it is for men, but I know for women especially, it's. Anytime someone gives you a compliment, on how nice you look, or, it's just the outfit I'm wearing. Yeah, black is good for me. Or why? Why dismiss a good comment, downplay something? And that actually is another aspect of that, is that we're kind of tough on ourselves too. Talking about relationships is not just about our spouses and our children and our friends. We have a relationship with ourselves, and sometimes our worst relationship is with ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we really don't appreciate ourselves, and we really take ourselves for granted. And I think that that's a pretty important relationship to speak about as well, because if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's really very difficult to have a good relationship with anybody else.
I think it's a very profound point. Hannah, you're on a roll over here because, you said before, I'm still trying to digest what you said earlier about that if you fall in love, that you don't believe you can ever fall out of love. And now I think that I'm starting to understand what you're saying, because it's not that you fell out of love with the other person. Maybe you're struggling with your own self.
Oh, it could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. There are always things that come into a relationship that will affect it. Financial is a big one. There are always things that will come in to kind of pour out that fire,
to mitigate the flame.
Exactly. So there are so many things, it could be it could be other people that are involved. It could be children that are involved that get, that so many things come into
which
play.
Which distract you from what you really love in each other.
Yes.
But what is it that causes people to fall in love? What is the essence of a true love relationship? But what is that? How would you define falling in love?
That's a really tough question. I think that everybody would describe that in a different way. To me, it's a soul connection.
Oh, I agree.
To me, it's just that click. Like, I feel, and to be honest, I remember that when I got engaged, and maybe this is going to be a little bit veering off topic, I remember speaking to some of my friends and telling them, I think that we all expect that feeling of love and falling in love.
Swept off our feet.
And I remember telling them, you know what? I'm not in love. I told them I'm not in love. I'm in like. That's what I told them. I'm in like. I like who he is. I like to spend time with him. I like what he has to say. I like the way he thinks. And I don't know if you can love a person right away. It really takes a lot of time, and love really comes from commitment. That's what it comes from. You really love a person once you're committed, and you know that they are committed to you and you are committed to them, and you are a holy union that nobody and nothing can come between. I think that that's what love is.
So I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. I think that love is two souls coming together as one. Love is when 1 + 1 = 1. Love is when my soul and your soul realize that they're two halves of the same soul.
Right. But like that concept of love at first sight, there's no such thing.
You don't believe in love at first
sight? I don't believe in that. Maybe you're attracted at first sight. That's possible. That's for sure possible. Or maybe you even knew right away that you're going to get married, or you knew right away that you're going to be together forever. That's possible. But true love really only comes once you have that commitment, once you're committed to each other. That's love.
Okay, so...
And if you weren't really committed to each other, then I wouldn't call that love. That was maybe just attraction, maybe that was lust, maybe that was excitement, but I don't think that was love.
Fascinating thoughts here. I should have processed this. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to the Rabbi and the Rebbetzin. I'm Rabbi David Vigler of Chabad Palm Beach Gardens. My wife is Rebbetzin Chana Vigler, also co-founder and director of Chabad Palm Beach Gardens, and we're having a conversation about relationships during this time of quarantine. As we're isolated from our friends and our family, we're forced to reflect on those relationships, and we wonder who our friends really are and who they aren't. We're thinking about those people that really matter to us and those that maybe don't. So we're having a conversation about falling in love, and I'm really quite intrigued by this idea. But I think kind of at the end of the day that the reason why two people fall in love is because they're two halves of the same soul. And it's when it dawns upon them that they are two parts of the same soul. I think initially it's an unconscious connection. It's an unconscious connection. You know how you find yourself drawn to another person and you've only known them for a couple days or weeks or hours, and you suddenly find yourself confiding in them stuff that you haven't told your friends that you've known for decades. And the reason for that is because of a profound sense of rapport, a connection, a comfort, like a sense of intimacy that you feel because it's unconscious, it's subconscious. Your soul senses that this person is a part of me. And it's when that realization dawns upon you, I think that's when you fall in love. when you realize that you are actually one. And that's why I think that what you said is so true, that when you do fall in love, you can't fall out of love. Because as long as you can be reminded of the essence bond that you have with the other person, with your spouse, as long as you can remember that, I know you can get distracted, and I know that, like you said before, stress or finances or children or other people or pandemics or some other issues or illness or health might come in your way.
Sure.
and distract you and sort of break your balance.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can have a good Rabbi or Rebbetzin that can remind you of your core values of how you are really one, then you're taken straight back to how you fell in love in the first place.
Exactly.
But how does this concept, Hannah, extend to our friends? Can you love your friends? I mean, to our commitment to our friends. We were talking before about Facebook and how people are cleaning out their friends lists. The people that they haven't spoken to in years, they figure they could just purge them from the friends list, which sounds like a pretty awful concept.
Yeah, and look, and a phrase that I've heard way too many times in my life, which is literally the most awful thing I ever heard, is, you hear when people say, oh, I have no use for this person, or I have no use for them.
Horrible.
And it really makes you wonder, it makes you think, what is the value of a friendship? Do you have a friend because you have a use for them? Or do you value them because they are a human being and they are inherently good? And every single person, not talking about criminals, not talking about, the really bad guys, but every single person, and to be honest, I think even criminals have that innermost feeling of really wanting to do good. They just don't know how. They've been very misguided and very misdirected. So we want to stay away from them, but that's a different conversation. I think that every single human being, we're all born with that feeling to want to please, with love. We're all born pure, and nobody wants to do bad to somebody else. Nobody's looking to hurt somebody else. Unfortunately, many people had very traumatic childhoods or traumatic experiences
which is problems that they have with themselves.
That nobody believed in them. Nobody trusted them. Nobody gave them that confidence, that strength to appreciate who they are and to become the best that they could be. And it's very, very sad. But I think that most people are really walking around with a bruised self-confidence. And
that's another conversation, by the way.
And everybody can use a friend, and everybody can use that phone call that says, I'm thinking about you. And you know what? It is so easy today. Just pick up your phone and send a text. Just send a text and say, I'm thinking about you. I care about you. I'm worried about you. Are you okay? That's all. And it's not about if I have a use for them. What have they done for me lately, right? What have they done for me lately to warrant them being a friend of mine? That's not how it works. That's not what friendship is. True friendship is when we care each other on a soul level, when we care for each other because of who we are, not because of what we do.
Wow. True friendship is caring for each other, not because of who we are, but because not because of what we do, what you do for me,
right,
but because of who we are. Because the conscious person is able to see the soul within every other human being.
Yes.
To see the light, to see the godliness, to see how you have a soul, I have a soul. We are one. A lot like a marriage. In a marriage, Absolutely. It's literally one soul divided into two people. But in our human relationships, we're talking about connecting with people that are an extension of myself. Not because of our bodies, but because of our souls. Our souls are truly kindred spirits. And if we can have the wisdom, the presence of mind, to be able to see other people for the light within them, that's when we can find those beautiful relationships and not judge other people for their choices or for their actions or for their return to us, but for who they are. And that is the essence of true friendship in our philosophy. We'd like to invite you to join us for a very special Monday night Zoom event with us at the Chabad Palm Beach Gardens here on Monday night. It's at 8 o'clock. We're having a special guest speaker. She's the senior editor of the world's largest Jewish website, Chabad.org. Her name is Chana Weisberg, and she will be talking about learning to like the people that you love. So join us on Monday night at jewishgardens.com/Zoom. It's a one-click link to get into our Zoom room. That's Monday night, 8 o'clock at jewishgardens.com/Zoom. Learning to like the people that you love. We've got more on this fascinating topic coming up right after this. So don't go away. We'll be right back right after this. Okay. So we just finished. We're still live on YouTube. We just finished the first segment of our radio show. And do we want to end the stream or carry on? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to end the stream. We'll be right back right after this.